In week 3 of our study, we're moving on towards silence. And I don't know about you, but the first time I listened to that video that we had earlier, it really made me uneasy. Silence can make us very uneasy. And we are such a verbal society that we have sometimes substituted talking about God to talking to God and to having God at the center of our lives. So there are some things, again, this is from the work of Henry Nouwen, that he talks about the benefits of silence. First, and one of the ones that I heard repeated by various people, is that silence makes us pilgrims. To think of those adventurers going out into the unknown, when we are speaking, we are only regurgitating again what we already know. Lyndon Johnson was known to have said, a person, we aren't learning anything if you're talking. You aren't learning anything if you're talking. And we can only be open to the newness of God in our life, to the pilgrimage, that new journey that we're on, when we're silent. And so often it's our words and speaking that gets us involved in what's going on here in this world. But to be silent is to be open to an unknown future, to where God would like to bring us, rather than describing where we already are or what we already know about. Silence brings us as pilgrims into God's future, the unknown. And the second thing he says is that silence guards the fire within. I don't know about you, but sometimes I've left meetings where I've probably talked too much. That's a common theme, but almost feeling a little sick to my stomach because I'm not sure if the people have understood or if they're interpreting it correctly, or if there's some agenda going on that I wasn't aware of because it didn't feel like I was connecting with people the way that I should have. That sometimes our words and our conversation can make us feel anxious. And rather, silence is about guarding that fire of God within us. Because sometimes our words say that we don't actually trust God to work in that other person's life, to bring them into God's presence. That we have to convince, through our words, we have to convince people that we're right, rather than opening our hearts to the possibility that God is working in them, but also that in silence and in listening, we have a better opportunity to actually connect with that person. It's a sacred discipline then to nurture the fire of God within us and not to talk excessively in ways that diminish that fire. And finally, Nouwen teaches that silence teaches us to speak. I've been trying to practice this more recently, the idea of not having to jump in with the words, but acknowledging that this other person is also a child of God, that God is speaking to them, and that I need to open my heart to God's presence in their lives so that I can better hear what God is saying to both of us. It teaches us to speak because we aren't just reinforcing our own opinions, but we're listening deeply. We're praying ceaselessly, as we talked about earlier. We're connecting with God as we are connecting with others. And whenever our words move into defending self, or particularly offending others, then we know we are not speaking out of the silence of God. That our strongest and our deepest connection is to God. And you know what happens, just as in that video, what happens at church too. When we say, let's be silent, let's have a moment of silence. People are going, oh, how long is a moment going to last? When will it be over, right? When will we fill the unknown with known? Instead of opening ourselves up to the mystery of God and not needing to control the way that the service is going with our words, but opening ourselves up to God's presence. And that quality of silence, of listening about how is God moving, where is God moving, where is God speaking to the other, what am I hearing from the other, that those moments of silence, that's what something that we carry with us even when we are in conversation.